Everybody else just forgot about it. So, Ari, Maverick,
Yes.
when this news came out about Will Smith, Jada, because from what I know, August Alsina sat down with Angela Yee from the Breakfast Club. They were doing an interview, and in the interview, he revealed that he had sexual relations with Jada Pinkett. And as a topper, he mentioned that Will Smith was cool with it. Were any of you, either of you, shocked when you first heard this?
No, I wasn't.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Oh, okay. So I was just by myself. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Because I was shocked. Because I am avid, and Ari knows this. I'm an avid Red Table Talk viewer, and on Red Table Talk, these two did 2 episodes actually where they cleared the rumors about them having an open relationship. They actually laughed it off. Jada said something like, "Oh, remember how the blogs be like, we got an open relationship, or that I let Will have chicks on the side." Will was like, then his whole like little dad laughed it off, and that was it. So it kind of like they presented themselves on this show that's supposed to be very honest and compassionate as monogamous people. Even though the blogs forever have said they have an open relationship. So that's why I was shocked at first. And now there's a possibility. Now people are saying that he might be lying because now Jada came out and said that didn't happen. But whether it happened or didn't happen, do you think that it is bizarre for marriage to be open?
Me personally, absolutely not.
Okay.
For me, I don't think it's bizarre. I just think it adds another layer of complexity to the relationship that I don't personally agree with, but I wouldn't call it bizarre. What would you call it? What would you say?
I wouldn't say bizarre at all. But like kind of going on along what she was saying, it just adds another layer to the relationship and whether you can handle it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me throw the word bizarre out the way. Do you feel that it does that it could make a marriage more complex or more simplified, having it be open?
Well, it depends on the aspect of it, because there could be a way where the person only wants a monogamous relationship, where if someone suggests having an open relationship, it can cause some type of conflict and it could bring complications to the relationship. But if there's a couple that who understands that you might have urges and they're like, I would rather you be more open with other people so I won't get hurt in the long run. And I think who else did an interview with that? The dude who made I'm a Classic Man. I forget his name.
Oh, Jadena?
Yeah, he had an interview where he said that the first time he got his heart broken where someone cheated, and when he found out that she was with another man, it broke his heart to the point where he got a tattoo just to even get rid of the pain. So after that, he was talking in an interview saying that he had an open relationship and that he knows that his woman sleeps with other men, and that and Charlamagne was like, oh, so one of the dudes call you and says that, yo, I'm smashing your girl, can you do that? He was like, well, it wouldn't go in that sense, but yeah, he could. So in his sense, he let an open relationship happen because he was like, I don't want to go through a pain of being heartbroken anymore, finding out that my girl lied and went with somebody else, when I'd rather know that she's with somebody else and be cool with it. It'll be less harmful, quote unquote. Not saying that I agree with it, but just being analytical.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
Matt, what you think? Does it make it more complex, or does it actually make the relationship easier?
It seemed like make it easier for him.
Hey, I hear you, Darrius. Well, yeah. So, as it makes. So here's the thing about it. In all honesty, like when people hear open relationships, they're instantly thinking, sex all the time, sex everywhere,
Right.
sex whenever you want, because that's the mentality that people have about it, because it's the taboo of it.
Yeah.
But in all actually honesty, it's more of communications and desires that you want between you and your partner, whoever they are, and understanding that you're both are trying to achieve something in a physical manner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Complexity, yes, I've listened to many podcasts because I'm big on the study of sexuality and everything like that. And so I listen to a lot of people podcasts, and a lot of people go into it with that mentality of, oh, we're going to do this, it's exciting and fun, but they don't understand, like you two, Darrius and I were talking about, is what comes with this package of fun and freedom. You know,
Right.
if you don't know yourself and you don't have all your trust things out, you're going to hit so many complications in
Yes.
an open relationship. If you don't talk about what you're comfortable with your partner doing and what you're comfortable with partner seeing, you're going to hit complications. Because a lot of times couples go into this and they're too afraid to say no or say yes. So it's they let things ride.
Yeah.
And sometimes you let things ride too much that you didn't put your foot down. And then by the time it's put a foot down, you're now hurting your partner or you're hurt yourself because things have went too far and you never voiced your opinion.
Exactly.
So open relationships really have issues when it comes to people communication. Do I think Austin's lying? Absolutely not, because most people in Jada's circle and stuff like that, you have a code of like, it happens, but it didn't never happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? You and your partner could say, even though they probably did have sex, Will and Jada will say, we were
But
out
if there
here,
was a
blah, blah,
code,
blah.
if
We
he
have
said
places to
something,
period.
that means he broke the code, right?
Exactly.
Of course, a lot of people break the code. That's why you have all these books that come out about people sleeping around and
Okay.
stuff like that.
So we're agreeing here that he's a snitch, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's 100% a snitch. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Attention.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's normally how it works.
Would y'all say that? Because the way I look at it, right, I could see how if there's two people who really want to be together, but they enjoy having sex with other people too much, so they decide to do like an open relationship, but in their rules, they only have they're only allowed to have other sexual relationships, right? So say you got two sets of couples. This couple says we're gonna have an open relationship, but we're only allowed to have sex with other individuals. This group says we're gonna do more polyamorous style, and we're allowed to have other relationships with other people. Because you see people like you see that happening too. Like you see a lot. I see a lot of couples that like I'll see them with this person today, and they're with the other person the other day, and I'm thinking that they're cheating, but both of their partners understand that they're with two other people.
Yeah.
So, which one would you think is more like the sex complicating things? Is sex complicating things because you're inviting other bodies into your relationship, and there's other like you have more sexual partners you gotta worry about now, or does it free up? Does it free up your yourself knowing that you have a ways of getting that sexual urge off your back?
I think it depends on the individual. Like, not everybody.
It's cool giving up that one.
Well, no, not everybody like it feels the same way about sex. Like, some people don't need it as much as others. Some people might want that. They're like, oh, I don't want to have another sexual partner. I'd rather have another partner that maybe I talk to.
Right. More emotionally stimulated.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that question really depends on the person. And I also feel like it depends on how long, in my opinion, like how long you've been in the relationship. Like, for me, it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around because, like, our relationship is still new. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want anything else. I don't need anything else at this point. But then maybe somebody who's been in a relationship for like going on 10 years, things could potentially start to, you might feel differently. And getting that sexual interaction with somebody else might be what you need to kind of, stimulate you at that point. So I think for that question that you asked, I think it depends on the person, in my opinion.
Okay. What up, Tiff? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm late. Hey.
Well, just to catch you up, so far what I've from what I've heard, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We're talking about the open relationships, and whether they make marriages more complex or more simplified. From what I gathered from our conversation so far, open relationships can be, they can work, and they don't have to be as complex as long as you're doing it with someone that you trust and have a very high level of communication with. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, my bad.
I was just checking to see, like, is that you guys even think that? Do you think that level of trust and communication can exist within relationship to where you trust your partner to sleep with whoever and be responsible about it and talk to you about it and not go beyond the boundaries that you guys have set? Do you think that level of communication and trust actually can exist between two people?
Well, yeah, it exists right now when you don't even add that in to the factor.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the trust relationship is always there. The thing is, it's just you both are deciding to embark on something a little further within your sexuality.
So monogamy is different. Monogamy is I trust you to not have sex with anybody else.
But that's still a level. That's still the level.
But in a relationship, I'm saying.
Let Tiff talk.
What happened? You got something to say, Tiff?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I was gonna say that honestly, it's not about the structure of the sexual relationship. It literally is about the trust and communication. I have had like 2 opposing like experiences, and one was a complete failure, and one is turning out to be super successful. So like, I was not in an open marriage before I got a divorce. However, I'm polyamorous. I'm not monogamous. I just chose to be monogamous because I was going to make that sacrifice for the person I was marrying because I thought that I was in love with him. And so still, he had the opportunity to have sex with whoever she wanted, as long as we were safe. Like, that was my thing, right? Safety is paramount, and always being aware. I don't want any secret relationships. I don't want none of that stuff. So our agreement was to have not, like, he was going to be able to have non-committal sex that had nothing to do with emotion. So emotionless sex, just whatever. The only reason why I didn't work was because he started building relationships with these people. So it wasn't the actual sex that was the problem. He went outside of the frame. Can you guys hear me?
Now
yeah, you cut out for a second.
Yeah,
so
just doing like a transformer thing right now.
Okay, he went outside of the parameter, so it didn't work. The trust wasn't there. The safety definitely wasn't there, so it didn't work. This time around, in my current relationship, I'm also not in an open relationship. He has no interest in being with other people. However, a part of my sexuality is I really enjoy BDSM and that whole world. He does not, and it wasn't something that I was going to give up right away. And so far in my relationship, I've successfully hosted 2 BDSM parties, and it has not affected our relationship at all because we had an understanding of what was going to happen. I didn't go outside of that parameter, and it didn't affect our relationship because of it. So I think it's totally possible as long as everyone is on the same page and acting in whatever agreement you guys made.
Would you say that health-wise, opening it up increases the health risk?
Definitely.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
certain things that I don't do when I'm interacting sexually with strangers that I do in my relationship, if that makes sense. So it's like you have to set all of those parameters. It's not just condoms. Like, I don't receive certain sexual acts from certain people if I don't know them, you know? So like, to be that open and trusting with your partner to like identify all these specifics.
Well, let's talk specifics, guys. For those who are listening and are thinking about participating in an open relationship, what's a healthy criteria that they should be considering to to mitigate to experience the least amount of health risks?
I would say specifically,
get tested. Always get tested. Like at least if
Right.
often.
And
you're
not just
looking
you,
like
but the people that you're
most people that
you're bringing into the folds.
correct, and most people that you into the lifestyle like that you talk about, they normally know these things and they have them and you discuss them beforehand. Because it's at the end of the day, it is safety is the number one key.
Yeah.
Tapestry Health Clinic does free testing on Fridays.
I would also say find your own
that's
sexual
good.
community. So like find your own sexual community. The same way that you have friends, you can have groups of people that you have sex with consistently. You know what I mean? And that way.
So it shouldn't be randos. It should be people that you and your partner know.
Not necessarily know
Not
at
necessarily.
first, but if you're engaging in that, y'all get checked, y'all show each other y'all papers, and then build a sexual relationship with these people.
Exactly.
Correct.
There's order and structure to it.
But it's not out there willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly.
Honestly, the BDSM world is actually way more safer than a lot of individual sexual interactions, because going into it, if you're doing it safely, the majority of people already have taboos, so you're not going to be like judged for your sexual desires or fantasy. And then secondly, most people that are healthily in the BDSM world has studied it and researched it and learned about a lot of the safety that goes into it. So I would say it's safer to find yourself a sexual community than it is to just try to find an individual to do this with that doesn't have
Right.
That's a good point.
I was sure you was gonna shout out FetLife real quick. Since we talk about specifics and resources and whatnot, go ahead, tell the world, Tiff.
I will say that FetLife is definitely a resource. So FetLife stands for Fetish Life, and it's an online social media where it is, instead of like your job, like LinkedIn, or your thoughts, like Twitter, it's your sexuality. And so the same guidelines and privacy for other pages is there, but like you can post nudity, you can be very suggestive, as blatant as you want, and so there's
lots of communities for people who like. You'll find your niche there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What you're into, you'll find. Unlike there's a lot of other sites that you could do. Go ahead. You can continue, Tiff. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Well, I was just gonna say the only reason why I didn't drop FetLife is because I don't want to be liable for anyone like having issues on there. Because just like as any site, there's a bunch of creeps, just as if there's a bunch of not creeps, and sometimes it's hard to sit through when everyone is doing weird stuff. So like, on FetLife, definitely be aware that it gets dark really quickly.
It does get dark, but if you don't like it too, the service is good because they do, like, if you report anybody, they are on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're really like adverse and watching what's going on and everything. So if you don't like something, you easily can step out that group or just say, hey, I'm not interested in that. And that should be
attest to that. I had someone.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying I had a situation. There was a guy, and he was being very aggressive in my inbox. And no matter how many times I kept ignoring him, he just kept, sending pictures of his pole, and I wasn't appreciative of it at all, and I reported, and he was instantly like, blocked, and I
gone.
Not all.
One of that Teddy loving.
One of them.
You are like the perfect version of a daddy or a bear. And
are you putting tea in a box? Did you just sexualize Tim?
Hey, my profile picture doesn't look like this. My profile picture actually looks like I look kind of skinny. I put a picture from, I was like.
What I will say though, as well, that I do like about FetLife especially for someone. So before I was in a relationship, I'm just a promiscuous person in general, and it is dangerous, especially in big cities, especially when you have all the fetishes that I do. So one thing I like about that, like when you're engaging with people, you can go to their profile. I always deal with people with more interactions on their profile. If there's
Correct,
enough people that follow them, if they're commenting back and forth, if their pictures are updated and active, I know, okay, there's a lot of people that's holding this person accountable if something goes wrong. And there's a lot of people who will know about it. I stray away from the pages that would have like one follower or no pictures or a very weird sense, like you get a vibe when you look on their profile because there's not much information. Most people BDSM are happy to share information about themselves and their activities. So if they're kind of secretive about it, it's a safety thing. That's a red flag for me. So I like the fact that if I meet someone, I can check out their FetLife profile and I can see that they're engaged in the community, and it lessens my worries a little bit.
I can rock with that. I say, so with all this going on, I feel like we're already in an era where non-traditional marriages are definitely just as popular as traditional marriages. Do you guys think, but monogamy is still considered like the norm? Do you guys think we are slowly, and I've asked this before, but do you think that we're slowly creeping into a world where poly is the norm? Where like the next time someone asks you who you're with, they're like they're referring to like, so how many are you with? Like they're like, the question isn't gonna be like so binary.
Who are you?
I still think it's gonna be who you're with, only to the fact that most poly couples, you have an anchor partner. You know what I mean? You have that person that holds you down and everything, and then from there you have your other mismatch. Unless you're like, you know, fully into it, then you explain the situation like, well, this is, you know, this is my 1, 2, 3, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I still think it's gonna be the same conversation. Like if I see you, like, yo, is that person with you? Yes or no? And then the next question comes: are you guys part of the lifestyle? You know, but you get the vibe. You can kind of tell people who are and aren't in a way, just about their openness in conversations, and you know.
Right.
I think monogamy is going to always be an option, but I think it's going to be just that, an option. Right now, I feel like it's the choice, is the go-to, but I think it's going to become this option. With the divorce rates being at 50% and higher, I think right now we're not even being realistic with the fact that we're not as monogamous as we think we are. So I think that transition structurally is going to happen eventually. But right now, the facts are showing us that the monogamous structure is not as strong as it used to be.
What do you think that would do for our society though? Like if, because the more and more common that poly becomes to be, eventually you'll see like a community of people trying to get polygamy legalized. And then if we do legalize that, what do you think that'll do to our economy, our households, our ways of life? Do you think there'll be a major change, or everything will just keep going the way it is right now?
Absolutely, there's going to be a major change. And let's be honest, the reason that polygamy right now isn't like the norm is because, you know, Christian, you know, European Catholic religions have put this in place to kind of keep people at bay. Because when you have polygamy, you'll have a man with many wives, which means he'll have sons and stuff like that, which means incomes will be a lot bigger, you know. You want to stop that and nip it in the bud. So if you look at it, you control people's sexuality, you control people. You know what I mean? It's no different than having limiting how dogs mate and population control with cats by neutering and spadering them. You know what I mean? You force people into one relationship and tell them that's the norm, and if not, you give them a false belief of dying in, you know, some horrible way.
Right.
Right. The systems have to change though, because as of right now, everything is based on a 2-person household, male and female marriage. So the documents that you fill out at a hospital, your social security card, your kid's school application, a car registration, even a rental, like everything has to change. I think it's most likely going to be, I don't think the law is going to be passed individually, I think they're going to have to just pass a polyamorous law versus polyandry or polygamy, because they're not going to be able to say men can have wives and they can't say that women can't have wives. And
Correct.
then we already have the now the non-binary that's in our law, so they're going to have to be able to have multiple marriages as well. So it's going to be a big law, and it's going to affect every aspect. Even think about how we set up school functions and things like that. We can't just send out mom and dad, or you know what I mean. It's going to be like a group family kind of thing. So our whole idea of individualism and how we look at family structures is going to change, and I think it'll be cool because we're going to start addressing more as in a collective, because everyone is, well, a large population is going to be in groups already. So I think that's a big change in our psychology. We're going to start thinking of group economics, group thinking, group decision making, and I think that's an interesting change that's going to happen.
Where if you look around the world, if you go around the world, you'll see there's so many other countries already practicing, like already modeling that type of society you just described, right? Like even in like the poorest of countries, they get it. Like that we make more money together, we build better together. So let's share this, like let's build this together.
Yeah, so it's actually a fallacy, the idea that impoverished nations don't understand group economics because their poverty actually is influenced by so many other things. And specifically in our country, capitalism was made to have an impoverished population within it. Capitalism can't exist without poor poverty simultaneously, because that distribution of that distribution that allows people to be extraordinarily wealthy has to come with some people being extraordinarily poor. So, yeah, it's cool, all right.
I got a question. So if we already have issues within our family structures and keeping families together, and like, what do you guys think is going to be the reason why it works with more people?
Communication.
Communication.
Most problems in families is because someone can't find the urge to communicate to somebody. Or if you do communicate to somebody, they're not going to accept your words because I'm the dad, I'm the mom, and this is law, blah, blah, blah. But when you have a multiple faction, you at least have one person to be able to communicate to. Most of us don't find our voices till after we leave our parents' house and we realize, oh, shoot, this is who I am. And even after that, some of us go through marriages and stuff like that until you have to realize, damn, this is really who I am. And be comfortable with it, you know. And now, once you found out who you are, you got to find someone or a group to at least help support that, because the world will make you think you're crazy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. And and to add on to that, I think something that non-traditional marriages offer that traditional ones are missing out on, that makes communication better, is that they've eliminated okay, Tiff. They've eliminated non-traditional marriages have eliminated things like gender roles, things like patriarchy, that really stagger communication, because the traditional marriage states the man is the head of the household. What the man says goes, and he's the breadwinner. Like the wife doesn't have much of a voice and doesn't have much of a financial freedom. So you're dealing with things like resentment. You're dealing with things like settling, spouses settling. You're dealing with secrets, and spouses not feeling comfortable enough to share when they're uncomfortable. So shit builds up until 40, 30, 50, and they realize, well, kids out the house, I ain't gotta deal with your ass no more. I want a divorce.
Yeah.
That's actually what Dr. Dre's wife, I wish I remember her name. They recently just announced that they're getting a divorce, like 2 days ago. And you know he's worth like $900 million, so she's getting like $400 million of that. That's not relevant. I just want to put that out there.
That's still crazy though.
Yeah, but she said in the interview that that's the reason why she's getting she's getting a divorce. There's a lot of shit she was putting up with for the sake of kids and for the sake of his career that he just never changed on. He's a very traditional individual. You wouldn't know that because Dr. Dre isn't really out there in the media like that, but according to her, he's a very traditional individual. And she was just bottling shit up. And then when she realized she didn't have to deal with it anymore for the sake of kids or whatever, she got free. So I think that, to answer your question, I think the non-traditional route just allows for just better communication and also different experiences as well. You know, like you got if you got two heads in the house trying to fix these problems, if two heads are better than one, I'm assuming three heads is divine. You know what I'm saying? Like two people are like, oh, how we gonna get out this financial mess? How we gonna pay these bills? Two minds struggling. In comes the third partner. What y'all should do is Because if I was to do poly, I would be very specific with the different careers that I choose my partners to have. Like, I'll make sure I got me a wife make sure I got me a partner that understands engineering and finances, as well as someone that has a creative side and got some leadership qualities in her. Like, make sure you like, don't get too much of the same thing. Then you might as well just be in a monogamous relationship and get two of the same kind of partner.
No.
Okay.
Now, T-Mac, I want to touch base on something. I know you said back to Will and Jada, how they said they weren't in an open relationship. There's some people who aren't in open relationships, but they're swingers. Right. You know what I mean? They allow things to come into and they play together. Whether the guy acts or not, they're always involved in it. A lot of people are in those relationships. So when people ask them, are you in an open relationship? They're going to say no, because it's not open. I don't allow, we don't go out and do things. But do we still invite others into the bedroom? That right there is a different thing. Now, that's, and I think that's right there is where a lot of people are before they actually say poly, but people are so used to the term poly without really understanding the full version of it.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of people more like Jay and Pick are like swingers. That's why I was pretty much. That's why I go back to you.
You say you think they are swingers?
I believe they are swingers. Yeah.
I agree with that, because it's not like you see them having somebody else in their house, like helping them raise their kids. It's more like, which you would just explain.
I will say, because and a lot of people, because something else I saw online was everybody was kind of like, these are celeb, like, how about y'all mind y'all business, let them live their life, etc. Why do we care so much? I think people cared so much about this. I think because people really care about Will and Jada have presented themselves as like a role model couple.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't think we would have cared as much if August said he had a threesome with Nikki and then her husband. Like, no one cares about Nikki and her husband. We're talking about Will and Jada here. Like they have presented themselves as being like an iconic role modeling couple. So if they come out as someone that as a group that as a couple that supports poly relationships, practices in poly type relationships, like open relationships, polyamorous, whatever. I feel like that says a lot for where the culture is going to shift to. You know what I mean? The same way. I think it was Cardi said one time she doesn't care if Offset has a side chick, and then the whole side chick thing blew up. And all of a sudden, I see girls who are cool with their man having a side chick.
I feel like a lot of women. Were you gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
I feel like a lot of women kind of became more open to that because it was just so common for them to get cheated on and stepped out on, and we kind of come from like, like I've seen my grandmother go through that, my mother goes through that, so I think women are kind of like, okay, I rather keep the man I'm with and just let him do, you know, whatever he wants to do on the side. So I don't always feel like that comes from the best place, but I
That's not
agree.
healthy at all.
Yeah, but I do agree that it is kind of becoming more common in especially in our generation right now. So
Right.
I hear you, and I there are couples I know who are in relationships just like you described, Ari. Like, you know, they're in there because, you know, they want to keep their man, so they're gonna please him, which ends up after like a few, it falls apart. That's like, you
right.
know, those are the horrible things. That communication isn't there. But then there's couples that do it, but it's for the sake. Like, I feel like now women have found their sexuality more, and they can actually say, "I do like sex." For the longest time, it's mainly been like men are those sexual deviants, men. But now women are
Right.
like, "No, I like sex, and I, you know, call me a slut, call me a whore, whatever." But now that's going out the window because now men are being like, "I won't lie. I tell people all the time, I'm a whore, I'm a slut." You know, like, it is what it is. I ain't gonna deny it. You know, but if you want, because the thing is, if you're gonna label women that way, you might as well label me that way. That's how I've always looked at things in life.
Right.
You know, you can't, you know, regardless of what, it was only like one part of the DNA strand that makes me different from a female.
Right. Yeah, and I think
But
if you're with somebody and you guys agree on that and it makes sense and you can really tell, like you said, it's if you understand yourself well enough to make that type of educated decision for your relationship, then I agree with it. I think it's just, you know, if it comes from a negative place or you're just trying to make.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying, I think it's only negative if it comes from a place where you're trying to accommodate somebody else. You should always, I think, you know, go into relationships as individuals and stay an individual. You know,
yes.
you don't have to like morph into this new being. You can still be yourself and still express what you want.
And to add on to that, I want to make it very clear. You should want to do this. Like, you shouldn't be, anytime
100%.
you're entering into a poly situation, you shouldn't be doing it because you feel like it's going to keep your man around or keep your lady around. That's settling. That's not what you really want.
Right.
And again, like I said before, when you do stuff like that, it only builds up. Like, you think you're okay with it now, but you keep doing it, eventually you're going to resent it at some point in time. And that resentment's either gonna come out, that resentment can come out in so many different ways. It can come out physically in a physical outburst, it can come out in a verbal outburst, it can come out in you going out and cheating and doing something foul or disloyal. Like, it's best if you just cut, like, if that's not what you're looking for, and your partner and this person that you're with, no matter how much you love them, I think that it's very important that people understand that you got to get out that situation if that's not what you want. You know what I'm saying? And never think, like, I never understood when people make generalizations about men and women like they've seen the world. This world is freaking huge, yo. This state alone is huge. I'm always discovering new cities and new towns and shit, and all these different people I'm seeing. Hinge is always modifying my mile radius, and I'm always seeing these new different types of women showing up. Like, this world is huge, and it's too huge for us to think so small. It's too huge and too diverse for us to think every man is going to cheat that I run into, or every man is going to cheat, or I'm never going to find someone that's that just wants monogamy. Like, if that's what you want, you could find it. You just gotta stop settling for what's the word? Settling and tolerating.
Just be open and honest.
Right.
Just be open and honest from the beginning. When you meet somebody, you let it be known, like, this and this. What most people do is they find someone they're attracted to them, so they'll court them, date them, and then try to slide it in there. And when she says no, now all of a sudden you feel like hate because you weren't honest from the beginning. You wasted both of your time.
From the jump. Say what you want. What's your non-negotiables?
That's it.
What's the criteria? What do you need? What do you want out of this?
The last point I want to make is that even when Tiffany got on the phone just now, and even how she said, she's like, this is what I like, and this is what my partner knows about me going forward. Like, not a lot of people are so, like, not a lot of people know themselves that well, where they're blunt, like, this is what it is. They're kind of like, oh, well, this or that. Like, you got to just, like, figure out what you want, stick with it, and I don't know, but I think that's dope. Like, people who really understand their personalities to that level, and they have, like, you know, not worried about what anybody else thinks. I think that's, like,
because they're so worried about what other people think and what they're gonna say, because there might be something about that person that they like so much, and they're like, I don't want to mention this one thing, even though it's important to me. I don't want to mention it and risk the chance of jeopardizing what I got with them. But again, it's important to remember, even if they don't like what you're about to tell them, you could always just go out and find somebody else. Like, you don't have to stick around.
People,
if they ain't rocking with it, find somebody that'll rock with it.
Yeah. All right, guys, I gotta hop off the call.
All right. I appreciate y'all joining me. You know what I'm saying? Plumbing Peoples, www.macbrittens.com. You know what I'm saying? At Plumbing Peoples on IG, at MacBrittens on IG. You know what I'm saying? I'm with my man Mavs. You know, I'm with the R's.
Good seeing you, Maverick. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. I'm gonna be in tomorrow's payday, so I get to fill up my tank. I'll be in town.
Yeah.
All
You guys
right,
are the
y'all.
best one. Thanks for this.
Y'all ready?
Bye.
All right. Love y'all.
Bye.
Love you too.